What's up, guys? Hey, Blair. Hold on a second. Finishing a thought here. What's up, Paul? Michael? All right. Oh, good morning, guys. Sorry I wasn't here yesterday for you. I needed some damn sleep, so I slept. And yeah, the market yesterday threw us for whipsaws. I mean, maybe it's good for me that we weren't here because we ended up we started here, came all the way down. It was very scary first 45 minutes of the market, and then it rallied all the way back and closed back up right towards the high, not breaking the previous day's high. And even today, we barely have poked above the previous day's high. So we'll see what happens here. But this is a good volume day, at least on the NQ. Let's kind of zoom in here a little bit. So there's the NQ. We stopped right at that 10-day moving average. What's up, Eli? Stopped at the 10-day moving average, although we did come, like I said, all the way back down and all the way back up. So that's a pretty bull sign. If you look at the intraday, which we can do now, so we look at the intraday yesterday. Had a doji open, which was interesting, and then a big sell-off for about an hour, give or take, 1.5% down before we're finally rising all the way back up. Now there was a gap if you look at the Qs. So here's the Qs. There's your close. Your open was way down here, and then it rallied throughout the day, back basically to fill the gap. So that is generally something that is allowed in any market. Just a gap fill day, nothing crazy. So even on the Qs yesterday could have just been a gap fill day, and we can continue lower. We'll have to see how this works out. The volume was elevated yesterday, which with such a day is normal to have just a crazy round trip day, but we never undercut the low, which is healthy. The volume remained lower than our previous high volume days, which is still kind of healthy, but definitely still in danger of taking these lows out, having some more elevated volume. Um, but yeah, we'll just kind of have to wait and see what happens. I did get an IBD alert. Let's go look at that. Some of the news articles were talking some bullish things. Stock futures mixed as Boeing leads chip slide. This pot stock jumps is some of the articles this morning, or the lead article this morning. So Boeing lifts the Dow, which is cool, and ACB jumps 6% in pre-market trade. So that's pretty good right there. Tesla yesterday with a great day. If you guys didn't hear about Tesla yesterday, the reason it bounced is because Citron or whatever, which is a leading short selling, I don't know what they are, news agency slash investment company. But anyway, they always put out these reports about why you should short this company. And they actually did a full roundabout on Tesla, went from bearish to complete bullishness. Just uber bullishness on Tesla. And yeah, there you go. So they're now bullish on Tesla. Tesla has earnings before, or okay, after market today. I thought it was before market. So we'll have to wait and see. Ooh, Model 4. What? You're making me want to click on this. Okay, hold on. I got to look up this article on Tesla. I'm a Tesla fanboy, I've got to admit. Sorry. Um, Tesla Shanghai Gigafactory will produce Model 4. What's the Model 4? I don't know what the Model 4 is. I can't find it easily on the Google machine. So anyway, I'll have to, I'll just Google test the Model 4. right, here we go. Here's something on the Model 4. Next gen Model 4 will be affordable for everyone, so that may be his $35,000 car. The 4th generation will be even less expensive. Okay. I haven't heard of the Model 4 news. I'm a little behind for a Tesla fanboy, it looks like. Anyway, so I guess, yeah, so they did get the factory in China and all that jazz. So pretty good for Tesla. Big jump yesterday. Eli got into ACB. Let's take a look at ACB. Looks great. It's the best chart pattern of all time. What the heck? 2007, 2008, 2018. That's so weird. Must have been an old stock with the same ticker that TD Ameritrade is kind of wrapping in the same data set. Interesting. Should I get out of my TQQQ position? So if you remember what we talked about over here, remember the whole premise behind trading the TQQQ. It's a longer term play. It's not a traditional trade around this position. TQQQ, and it wasn't meant to catch an immediate rise. An immediate rise would be really better used, or a follow through day would be a better vehicle to get in the market. What I was referring to is trying to catch the earliest indication of where a bottom could be and holding that TQQQ for a long time. I held mine. I held my TQQQ since I think it was this day right here when we crossed the 50 day. That's when I held my TQQQ. Didn't sell at all until we had, I think I ended up selling on this day. Maybe this day, I don't remember. But one of these 2 days is when I finally sold it after we had all this distribution and stalling up here. That's kind of how this particular strategy is traded. You hold it for as long as the market allows you to, regardless really of what the market does, unless it shows you topping behavior. That's really kind of where it is right now. And should you sell it? I don't know, but for my particular strategy, I'm okay holding mine right now. While I do admit we may go lower, if we do undercut this low here and volume is really elevated and you do want to sell it, that's a judgment call that you can make, and then maybe we'll have another high volume day to buy it. But the only market time, let me zoom this back out, because remember we did this whole video a couple Thursdays ago on that high volume down day. The only one where the high volume down day really led to lower prices. The market basically went down by another. The drop doubled essentially. That's 10 years. I thought it was. Oh, maybe I have to go back past 10 years. There was only one scenario really where the market ended up dropping after you have one of these really big high volume days, and I think it was, we were down like 8%, and the market ended up going down like 17% or something like that, and the high volume down day was much higher. Maybe it was right there. I guess I haven't really done the charting aspect to my presentation yet. So like here's one where the market continues, but again, it only undercuts for a few fleeting moments before it finally retraces. And the whole point is that this is an index. This is not an individual stock, which is why things like this can work. Oh, maybe it was here. No, see, there's no major high volume down day right there. Or maybe it was right there. So there's the biggest high volume down day. Then this one continues a little bit more with another high volume down day down here right at the bottom. Even this one's still undercut for a little bit, but the high volume day was right there. And then we have even higher volume down here. So here's a situation where things are a little bit tricky. And there you have a really high volume as the big spike low, goes lower. It's very hard to forecast something like this. Although even if we get this, you're going to be selling out. Whoops, what the heck just happened? Even if you do get something like that, you're going to be selling out at a much higher price anyways. I lost it. Darn it, I right-clicked on something and my chart moved. Okay, there it is. So 2011. So yeah, so here you go. So in this particular scenario, let's say that we were falling and you would have bought here. That's a pretty high volume day. So say you buy there, obviously that's a good buy. It did retrace, failed to make a high, came back down, failed to make a low. It's up to you if you would have sold on the highs up here. But then there was really no major high volume down day. You probably could have gotten in right there if you didn't get in up here. But this was really close to that high. That would have been a sell signal rather than a bottoming signal. And then over here where you had this really high volume, I think the clue here is that another failed high would have gotten you out of the market somewhere over here, and then you could have looked for another high volume down day, and you probably would have gotten in on this day if you're looking at those high volume down days. Then the next day is another high volume day. This day had a lot of. Let me zoom in on that one. There we go. So this day right here had you closed up over 0.5% of the range. You could have been fooled into getting in the market right there without any doubt. But we did go a little bit lower, and if you look at the close, there's a little bit of price action. But even this only undercuts for a brief period of time before finally reversing. You know what I'm saying? So it did. We may be in a similar situation where maybe we still go lower for a month or two, but we are going with that same hypothesis. You can go back and watch that video. It's still on my channel, You can go ahead and watch that video, but still by going by that high volume down day, you're still in a decent spot, right? You're in a decent spot. Usually what happens is you'll have these low volume down days that kind of take you lower. And we have these two major down days. Now, we thought this was the high volume down day here. We ended up getting another higher volume down day. Luckily, it didn't really mess with us in terms of much, but so we just have to see how this plays out going forward in terms of those high volume down days. But this is not a bearish pattern overall as it sits, or I'm sorry, a bullish pattern as it sits right here. And yesterday was a pretty dang good day when you think about it. Very elevated volume, full round trip on the market, almost closed flat to positive. Actually flirted, I think, with positive for a little bit right there. And then we'll see what happens today. But, high volume down day still in effect. What up, Kevin? What's up, Venick? Win boom, all right? Are you talking about up or down? MJ with a inverse head and shoulders on the 15-minute time frame. Well, if you're going to get in something with a 15-minute, I believe you should get out of something on the 15-minute. But yeah, yesterday on MJ, the thing just cratered the past week. It really just took it on the chin. And then now getting support here by the 200-day moving average, yesterday being a bit of a support day. We'll have to see what happens with this from here. But it's a pretty egregious downside move. These usually don't V up, and if they do, it's unhealthy. But if you're going to play that and buy that on the 15-minute, you should sell that also based on 15-minute signals. So we can go ahead and look at this real quick on that 15-minute. But like I said, if you buy it on the 15-minute signal, I think you should sell it on the 15-minute signal. Okay, so yeah, maybe you've got a neckline right here, and that would give you that's a pretty good bounce. And yeah, I think if you were to trade that definitely could be viable, and that would give you a pretty good price increase. Oh, and the market just opened. Look at that. So that gives you about 7 or 8% on MJ. So yeah, maybe that may be pretty good. Nothing's guaranteed, guys, but that shoulder, head, shoulder right there. We'll see what happens today to open. But yeah, if you can get over yesterday's high, I would say give it a little bit more A little bit more runway here. Get over yesterday's high, and then yeah, maybe it could start rallying there. But like I said, if you buy it on the 15, you got to sell it on the 15. Don't buy on the 15, then try to hold it for 3 years. Doesn't usually that strategy doesn't work very well. So here's another time when MJ kind of went higher and then went lower. It did bounce for a while, then finally rolled over again. Then we had this most recent large run in line with a lot of the top MJ stocks. All right, let's go take a peek at what was working. We didn't really get a chance to look at pre-market movers, but we can see 3D Systems is here, looking not too bad. A full retracement of the gap move. We didn't fill the gap, but a full retracement of the gap move. Earnings, looks like we have earnings just before Halloween. Hopefully it's not scary. Tilroy, Cron, MMNFF, CGC, all MJ stocks. Yandex, which is not an MJ stock. I think it's like a PayPal of Russia or something. Boeing up 3%. Got to look at some Boeing here. Big gap up after kind of a bullish slash not really a doji close, but yesterday. Okay, breaking that trend line, which also happens to coincide with the 10-day. Oh, yeah, Eli, I did see you posting that list as it happened. I didn't get a chance to look at it when I get home. Let me take a look at it. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's go take a look at that. I'm going to breeze through these real quick, see if there's anything on here that's really worthwhile. CGC. I did see Etsy. That dropped a little lower. Tesla up another 2.5%. Whiting Petroleum. Eli thinks this one's going down a little bit more. Definitely could. I think oil dropped below 70. I'm not sure where it's at right now, but all right, let's go through the list here. FFIV is something that you think's looking pretty good there. Looks like it's bouncing off the 200-day. Yeah, nice little flat bottom area. Earnings coming up on FFIV today after market, so look for a reaction in that. Don't know if you want to front run those earnings unless you have a crazy options play that can limit your risk. GPS, kind of in a weird lower trend line. I'm not so enthused about this one particularly. Very aggressive trend line right there. I think we'd have to get over before that looked pretty good. Garmin. I forgot about Garmin. Yeah, Garmin had this nice cup here. Looks like it rallied a little bit. And man, a big sell-off. That's a pretty big sell-off. Another type of a flat base. Looking like a bit of a bear flag, but there is earnings coming up as noted on Halloween. So there is kind of a weird trend line right there. Looks like we're cutting through that. So maybe a reversal, but that's a pretty egregious sell-off. I don't know. It's not my kind of play. Not my kind of play right there. PM. Philip Morris. Yeah, so after a big round trip, we looked at this a couple of weeks ago, I think. Yeah, right. Maybe about a week ago. We were looking at it right about here. I think I had a day where it gapped up. Was it there? I don't remember looking at it right there. Anyway, yeah, I do like the little consolidation here on Philip Morris, trying to come out of a low area, which it's been in ever since, looks like about 6 months. And then finally trying to get out of there, having a nice double bottom, little flag right there. Even maybe getting to that trend line gets you about 6% on a stock that probably pays very heavy dividend, 1.44 quarterly. So it's like a 4% dividend play right now, which is pretty good. Also with some growth potential. So not too bad right there on Philip Morris. Kevin got into 83. Very nice. To the midterms by the end of the year. I think Philip Morris right now, just from a strictly charting perspective, without taking anything else into account. So here's the weekly of Philip Morris. And you're down towards lows that we didn't have for a couple of years back. And I would assume they haven't really raised their dividend. 138, 124, 150, 150 something. I think you could probably hold this for a little bit. I mean, that dividend is going to give you 4% annually as it is, depending on I don't know exactly how you manage your portfolio, Kevin. It seems like you'd be a bit of a longer-term investor versus then an in-and-out trader. I mean, Philip Morris down here at 83, I think is probably a pretty good bargain. And then you're going to get maybe a 50% clip up to highs here in the next couple of years. Maybe we'll see how they do with the MJ space coming in. Maybe this is them going on MJ. But I think a break of 75 would get you out. And one target, if you do want to trade this for shorter term, could be at this trend line. If not, then you're going to have to look for an alternative exit signal depending on whatever. I'm not really quite sure your full philosophy, Kevin, so it's hard to really give you sage advice without trying to FUD up your strategy, which I don't like doing that to people. I don't like interjecting my full strategy into other people's strategies. It can kind of mess them up. All right, still moving on here with the with Eli's list. Eli's list I do consider very similar. I won't say that. Very insensitive comment. Okay, SBX. You're welcome, Kevin. Yeah, so I figured you're much longer term. So much longer term buying at a low like that. I think when you get those, you got to hold on to them, similar to like Warren Buffett, right? If it's something that's that hasn't fundamentally changed, and you just have a market reaction, and you try to buy those market reactions, then I think you just hold on to that position. So Starbucks looking at a bull flag here. You know what? I'm going to go back out to my... Okay, so here's my weekly on Starbucks. I've got weekly here and daily linked on my red number 1, so these are going to move together. And this is the weekly on Starbucks, which looks pretty good. I mean, a nice, tight base right there. That is phenomenal. You look at the last time it did something similar to this, and it had a massive run for a year. Had a massive run there for a year. Don't know if we do this exact same thing. And you never quite know when it's going to break out. We had a lower low here, a higher low here. But if this does start to work and start to break out of that, I think this could be a pretty good long-term move for Starbucks. I'm actually gonna move this out because I love stuff like this, guys. This is really fantastic. Keep in mind this is a base that's been going on since 20. Oh, I can't see the year there, but down only 36% for 1, 2, basically a 3-year base. And if that gets a good breakout going, we could be. Whoops. We could be. Why are you going away? You could be up here another 30 some odd percent. This one looks like it probably. Okay, now I'm just getting annoyed. This one went up about 60. Why are you removing my line before I re-click? 60%? 58%. This one went up about 58% from the breakout point. What the flood, man? That's horribly annoying. Why are you just doing what you want to do and ignoring me? Okay, so let's kind of do a measured move here. Not that it's going to do this, but I didn't want to do a percentage move. So that gets you to 85 potentially on Starbucks. That's about 37% out of a move like that. But again, this is going to take probably all of next year, maybe into the following year if this occurs. And this is a much longer term trade, but that would be 38% really isn't. We do that weekly in some cases on some of the other stocks that we're looking at on the channel. So, but anyway, I think that's an interesting move in Starbucks nonetheless. And here on the shorter term, out of a bull flag, I think can be fairly interesting. Earnings is coming up. Maybe it bounces out there, but we see here that if it moves out of that range, it can chop around it for a little bit before finally moving. So while I don't think there's necessarily a huge reaction coming, you could get a nice bounce of probably up to 10% before it consolidates. Starbucks is a bigger name, bigger market cap, and obviously pretty liquid. So there's a bunch of people here, trading it, and those. Sometimes when you have too big of a float, it can act negatively on your stock. So until this thing breaks out, I'm watching it at this level. I don't think I'm buying it at this level yet. But I think longer term, maybe find some 2020s, Eli, for Starbucks. That could be good. Temis, he said, looks strong. So here's Temis. We were looking at this on the breakout. Hasn't done much since it broken out. since it's broken out. Popped up, went lower, came back already almost towards the high, so that is pretty strong. Definitely failing to sell off with the rest of the market. You got a trend line there and a trend line there on TMUS. But yeah, I'm not sure how far this one's going to run. Hold on a second. Yeah, so TMUS not looking too bad. I do like yesterday's day. It's pretty nice. Very similar to the day on the Qs. Almost exactly like yesterday on the Qs. So good, yeah, maybe Bible. I'll probably just wait till it gets over 71 though, and just wait to see what the volume happens in that case. And then I think WLL is going to continue going down. Definitely could has shown strong resistance up here at 55. Strong resistance at 55. Down at 40, it's a pretty good discount. Down about 29%. Definitely could go down a little bit further. Really no fight either direction on that one, but I'm not interested in buying that one either. So, pre-market movers probably isn't the best thing to do. Let's go through some of the scans today. Going to detach my scan module. Run said scan. And what's the NASDAQ doing? Chopping around this morning, down 0.25%. Nothing crazy. The Qs right now, very tight. See this trend line I drew here on the Qs? If we break above this, that's going to be good for the short term. That doesn't mean we're completely out of the woods yet. We still have to contend with the 50-day, which if we break this trend line, we may actually go test that 50-day. But that would be good for a pop trade of about 3-4%, which on the TQs would give you about 12%, if that worked out. So, all right, we got Boeing popping here today, leading our big cap movers. TMO, Thermo Fisher Scientific. I actually have no idea what they do. $93 billion company. CNI, don't know what they do, but they don't look super great. PP Roof. That's super weird. Don't know what they do. And Norfolk Southern. Okay, so this could be a good one. This is a rail play. And coming to the 200-day moving average on rail, here's the 40-day moving average, which is akin to that. You don't get that buy very often on these rail names. I'm surprised if Warren Buffett didn't take some positions here in them that we'll hear about this next week. Coinbase made its own tether? No, I did not see that, Blah. Why the hell would they do that? Because they're trying to trade a bunch of these other cryptos, and they don't want to peg it to the dollar because they can't for whatever reason, probably due to liquidity's sake, so they made their own tether. Makes sense. That really sucks. I just got to say that. I'll touch on that later. But Norfolk Southern pulling back. Yesterday would have been a great day to get it. Just looked garbage. And it looks like they had earnings. They beat earnings. So you probably could do Norfolk Southern back up here to the 187 level. That looks like that could be a good trade. Volume here isn't very high yet, but interesting. Oh, Thermo Scientific is a cannabis play. Okay, interesting. Thanks for pointing that out, TMO. But I doubt that's the only thing they do because they're a $93 billion company. So while they probably do get a little bit of pump, which is probably what all this accumulation is for right here, probably a couple of funds maybe being advised by the same investment advisor accumulating. And you see right there coming back in towards the lower part of this accumulation, the support. So maybe if you can get it down here towards the 220 level, could be good for longer term if you're into something like that. But yeah, the Norfolk Southern at $45 billion, that could be a good longer term play if you're into something like that. This is probably going to respect this trend line as long as this economy, and you see that didn't even come down to that trend line, just bounced off the 200-day. So it's a little high here now, but still overall you could be looking at a full retracement of that move here in a fairly short period of time. All right, Nick, some insider information. There you go. All right, so there's NSC. You know what? I don't know why. I kind of want to add that to my list. I know it's not a huge mover, but when you get a downtrodden market like this, there's a few opportunities. I don't know if this is one. There's more research to be done, but yeah, it could be a potential play there. NSC. All right, what else we got today? We got that, whatever that is. That Sirius satellite radio really undercut that 200-day moving average. Here's the weekly. Look at the so here's the 10-week moving average, which is akin to the 50-day. It's not an exact match. This is a 40-week, which is akin to the 200-day, although also not an exact match. You can see here we don't get under that 40-day very often. And on Sirius, again, another situation where my stupid platform is not working with me here. But look at that, bouncing right off that longer term average. Seeing a lot of support in some of these names, and right off of that, you could be good for that bounce up there back into the highs. If you're interested in Sirius, I'm not necessarily. Oh, you said billion. Thank you for clarifying with million. That's good. So Siri with a bounce there. Could be interesting off of that trend line right there, undercutting the 40-week or the 200-day moving average. And that's pretty rare right there. That's been pretty rare for Sirius satellite radio. And they did recently just acquire Pandora. All right, SHG, whatever that is. That looks interesting on a weekly perspective, but over the counter, I don't know what that is. Varian Medical Systems. They had a big pump on earnings today. Juniper. Okay, this I can get behind. Look at that. Beautiful symmetrical triangle on Juniper Systems. On the longer term, JNPR. I need to research this one. I actually forget what they do. I used to know. Haven't heard the name in a while. Haven't really thought about it, but there's kind of a beautiful symmetrical triangle. While not a traditional chart pattern from an IBD perspective, I'm sure if I look here, we'll find some chart patterns. But as this price range narrows, we're going to come into that squeezing point where investors are going to have to pick a side. Declining volume on the weekly here as the price rises towards that trend line. Could be interesting going forward. Definitely have to do some research there. That's only a 10 billion market cap company too, so plenty of room to run on that one. Don't know what that is. Don't know what that is. Don't know what that is. ACB, which is I think that new MJ stock at 8 billion or 7.3 billion market cap. Knight Transportation, which is based here in Phoenix, used to be a client of mine when I worked at a company called Gate 6. What are they doing? Double bottom here. Selling off today even after a big update. No bueno on that one. Yeah, Knight Transportation. They recently bought Swift, and so they're like the second or third largest fleet transportation company. It's crazy. Etsy. It looks like a full retracement here. Very good support at that $40 level on Etsy. Not sure if we break it or not, but bit of a bear flag scenario here so far. Have to wait and see how this plays out, but hasn't really tested that 50-day moving average, which is what this line is here. And then maybe it'll just end up rolling right over. Earnings is coming up, looks like, in a few weeks. 11.6. We'll have to see what happens after that. All right, so that's kind of going through those big ones. Let's see what's going on. LAD here, Lithia, which is a motors company, some weird alternative automotive company similar to Tesla. Trendline right there, which is supporting. We've already tested this 127 level. Let's just call it 120 for argument's sake a number of times. Maybe it'll do that again, but you can see here this is a weekly. So this is a year, this is a year, this is a year. Maybe a couple more years till it gets back up there. Probably no major trades right there. Again, 3D Systems. living in low levels and has been living in low levels for the past 3 years. We're waiting for this to break this $22 level, and if it does, maybe we'll finally get off to the races again in 3D Systems. A sister stock to this is SSYS, which is a larger leader in the 3D space. 3D Systems used to lead the space, and SSYS is now the actual leader of the space. They've actually done better than 3D Systems. Looks like there's two trend lines right there converging. Living lower here could be a good entry if you want to take a really long-term position, though I'm not quite sure how long you could get. If you want to take like a multi-year position in SSYS, not sure if that's something you want to gamble on, but I read a pretty cool article by a guy that sounded really smart, and that's coming from me. I don't say that a lot. He basically stated that the internet stocks, and I've actually talked about this premise in the past. The internet stocks in '99, everyone thought that the internet stocks died. They didn't. They just, they took a slightly different form, and 3D System stocks, or 3D stocks, did a very similar thing, and he's thinking their cycle is coming back up. So you look at the bear market in from 1999, 2000, the tech bubble. It bubbled and burst a ton and lay dormant for many, many years. He's thinking the same things happen with these 3D systems because they're much more mainstream now. And by the time the internet had its second bubble, which has arguably now been a 10 to 15 year cycle, has really made an exponential move higher. And he's thinking possibly these 3D stocks could be doing the same thing. And I talk about all the time on Crypto Channel, the move should be proportional to the base, and the base in tech was probably proportional to the move, and the 3D Systems base is also getting to the point where it's proportional with the move. So it could be slowly starting to come out, and this is going to be a longer cycle. This isn't going to be something that's going to pump next year, guys. This could be something to look at for the next 5 to 10 years, where you get these from $20 back to $100+ in SSYS. Anyway, that's interesting. And the NASDAQ take a turn for the worst down points, 0.2% here right now. So we'll see how this goes out. Volume very low on the NQ, very low, which bodes well for a bottoming market. Yeah, and I kind of agree with his sentiment. Like, I don't know much about... See, if you remember when the tech bubble burst, when the tech bubble burst, like everyone thought tech was dead. They're like, oh, tech sucks, internet's dead. I mean, those of you that weren't stupid knew that was not correct. But you never know when it's going to come back, and you take each individual name on its own basis. The 3D realm is probably very similar to that. So in time, they probably will come back. But, what form this takes, who knows? Maybe, even though 3D printing right now is much more viable than it was 5 years ago. Blaze says, you might remember, but I'm new. I mean, you can go look at the charts, Blef. Just go do some homework, right? Go look at charts. The information's out there for you. And do your own due diligence. Go look at the tech bubble. Look at Amazon. Look at the names. Go find some articles that have covered that in depth. And you got companies like Pets.com, which were acquired or died, and Yahoo, which is now basically defunct. Same with AOL. And all those ones that were running back then, now they're not working so well. But the ones that did work well, basically Amazon, Microsoft, all of those ones. Now, keep in mind, Google wasn't invented until like 2005, 2006. So they weren't around during the tech bubble. But all those companies in the tech bubble enabled these other secondary companies to come into the market and really make their product. I mean, Google, while they eventually built their own infrastructure, came around and built off they didn't build their own internet. The internet was already there for them. They just found a different way to use it. Same with Facebook. The internet was already there. They didn't have to develop the infrastructure. So, 3D and SYS here, while these guys are building the 3D printing infrastructure, the machines and the know-how, I don't know who's going to come next. Maybe there's someone else that does it cheaper, better, and faster that you're going to hear about. And if you hear about it, let me know, because maybe the next generation 3D printing company will come in the housing industry, where they find a way to 3D print houses or autos, or really find a way to do metal parts based off of the existing technologies. So sometimes it's not necessarily those initial stocks that continue running, but sometimes it's another segment of the market. Like the Google or the Facebook, which didn't make the infrastructure. They eventually built their own servers, and Google did try to make their own network backbone, and they successfully did with Google Fiber for a few years there. But, eventually they started out with running servers on existing infrastructure, which was the internet. Maybe the same thing will happen with 3D Systems. Anyway, enough rambling about market theory. Hold on a second, guys. All right, guys, I'm back. Yeah, homework is always a good thing to do. It's never wasted time. Homework is never wasted time. I try to tell my 7-year-old that, but he doesn't believe me. And then, yeah, Nick, they do some 3D printed houses with concrete. I've seen those in the past. They're kind of weird, though. But, anyway, I'm just throwing conjecture, like thinking of things that could be 3D printed. Like, if they could 3D print a full rocket, I think that would be pretty dope, right? That'd be awesome. But, whatever the market segment is, look, 3D printing is going to get more and more integrated with our manufacturing systems. It also could be the point that, and this has always been a risk, is that like Boeing and all these very large companies, maybe they develop their own 3D printing systems, which doesn't necessarily hit their bottom line, but makes them a little bit more efficient. And maybe there's no real stock that has a second huge moonshot. But anyway, I just figured I'd mention that. I thought it was interesting. What I think is interesting is the low volume here on NQ. I think that is extremely interesting. That's really low volume. If this goes lower like this with very low volume, maybe adding to that TQQQ position could be warranted. But a break above here also could add to that TQQQ position. And then we'll see what happens when we test the 50-day. Because again, looking at that could be that's about a 4% move. If you're looking at the triple Qs or the TQQQ, that could be a 12% move. And that could even be a potential little trade for you. Kind of trading around a core position type of a scenario. All right, so what do we got going on here? We got Boeing up 3%, MJ up 2.85%. After yesterday, which was a pretty good route through the MJ stocks yesterday. So far, not really getting much of a headwind, but that's fine. This is going to take a while for this to wear off. It's not gonna V right back. I have no expectations about that, but it would be nice. It'd always be nice if it would V right back. Core's coming right back. We haven't looked at cores in a while. Let's look through some of these names that we haven't really seen in a minute. So there's cores. We were looking at it coming out of this base, failing that base entirely, maybe coming back to a support area if you're so inclined. But we got earnings here in a few weeks, so there could be some moves right there. I'm just going to go back to the daily. I don't know. I kind of want the weekly and the daily, to be honest with you. I want to look at both. I'm just getting greedy here, guys. Let's do this. All right. Let's do that. Don't know why that continues. It's always horribly annoying when they do that. I wish I could set a default here, but I haven't figured out a way how to do that yet. Okay. How to do a big yawn there. Yeah, I get that, Nick. I know you weren't trying to poo on my idea. Nice doghouse. Post a picture of it in Slack. Take a look at it. And Mel says the thing about 3D printing is that it must be done for physical things where the material component is made of is not very complex. And that is, they're working on some, not necessarily different materials, but yes, I completely agree with you there. It does have to be a very simple component with one material. And, maybe that could be the thing that propels it forward if someone comes up with a way to do, not that you're going to print wood, but, print concrete and print copper with it. And so you can fully 3D print a house, but I don't see that being as necessarily super viable. But yeah, anywho, let's go ahead and move on to some of these. So let's just go from the top down, click around for the next 5-10 minutes, and I got to get out of here. So here's Lithium. We've got a really long-term chart going all the way back here. Let's kind of breeze through some of these names till we see something interesting. There's 3D Systems. There's the big run, full retracement. I am still very interested in the 3D stocks. So there's the MJ stocks going back from where there was no volume, where volume stepped in over here in 2016 and slowly working its way higher. This looks like historically on the weekly chart, this 40-week moving average, a good time to get into these stocks. Again, your time horizon is going to be longer term for sure. Another MJ stock, Anfi with, wow, just a horrible chart on the weekly right there. I don't know what to say about that one. LL Lumber Liquidators really sold off from its heyday. You can see right there, I don't see them coming back. If they haven't come back with the way the housing market is, they're not going to get healthy going forward there. Torchlight, don't know much about them. Emmys is an energy play. I forget exactly what they do, if it's oil or natural gas, but definitely taking on the chin, not coming back from, I think that's even after peak oil. Norfolk Southern, we just talked about these guys earlier. Look at that. In a prolonged uptrend right there, not even getting close to that trend line. I do like that one right there. It doesn't mean it's going to bounce immediately, but it could have a good move. Boeing, look at Boeing, man. This thing is a rock star, just killing it. Just killing it. But here on the right side of the chart, with a recent bounce, yesterday kind of not quite a doji close, but closed right next to the open, and then a big gap up this morning on earnings. A volume a little heavier here than on the NASDAQ, as you can see. The NASDAQ is very negligible volume, only a tenth of what is average on what should be a very low volume day today, if things keep this pace. And then Boeing, the opposite of that. Boeing already a third of the way through the average volume, and only 30 minutes through the trading day. So some good moves there on Boeing, but I give that a little bit of time. Norfolk Southern again, ABG, a very nice chart pattern here on ABG. Nothing to do yet till we get over that $78 level, it looks like. But no, BLFS, this is one we were looking at up here, as it was trying to break into all-time highs and failing. So it'll in time here give us a secondary entry point. Eli, you may want to look at this one, buddy. Talking about those flat bottoms, lower term entry point, sitting on the 200-day moving average. I believe the fundamentals are still sound in this one. So I don't know. Let me know what your indicators say about that. Looks like it's trying to break that sideways. That could be good. A low volume area right there coming into that 200-day moving average. BLFS could make a short list. I think absolutely. Where'd my pen go? Where'd it go? Eli, you stole my pen, didn't you? Damn it. I knew I couldn't trust you with leaving my Sharpie laying around. BLFS. That one right there could be pretty good. I mean, if you're looking at that's pretty egregious downtrend. I mean, it may have another move lower. You never know, but we'll have to check it out. Looking at the U's. Yeah, dude, you steal pens all the time. It's outrageous. going long my pens. So in every office, there's a guy that just steals pens because every office is always short pens. What does your indicators here tell you about you, Eli, that you like? Does it look like there's some divergence there? What could be good here is looks like there's a little bit of a channel. If you, I guess, do it off the closes right there. Maybe stuck in a range right there. Are you serious? I didn't have to look at this thing. Although I do like the accelerating volume in this, just from a general standpoint. So we'll have to wait and see, though. All right, let's go back to our little list exercise here. MJ, we got Etsy. So there's your ICO or IPO in Etsy. And holding above that level is healthy, although this does kind of look like a mini bear flag. We'll have to wait and see what that does. Not looking nearly as good as BLFS in terms of a low right there. TripAdvisor. Interesting on TripAdvisor. Definitely have a downtrend right there. There's a weekly trend right there. And we're right in the cusp of this. So Trip could be worth a second look as well. Now, part of a second look is technical. Also looking at the fundamentals of the stock, making sure that it's viable and growing as an entity. HCC is something that this is a coal play, which really is weird. But look at that, man. Very, very tight on this thing. I don't quite know, exactly what to make of that, but only 30% drop right there. This would be considered a saucer base because it's wider than it is deep. I'm going to put HCC back on the list here, but I can't for the life of me think why this thing is tight. I just, for the life of me, I can't quite understand it. Eli bought some Starbucks. Twitter kind of rounding out down here. We have earnings coming up. Could be interesting. 10:25 tomorrow before market. So if you did want to play Twitter on earnings, could have a big reaction, maybe up to 35. You have to check those implied volatility numbers. But it did find support down here. Also could be considered a neckline in a head and shoulders pattern. Actually, no, excuse me. Your neckline would be here. Whoops. That would be your neckline because that would be your shoulder. But yeah, maybe, see, Twitter's not dead by any stretch of the imagination. As a company, obviously, they're still growing. We'll have to see what earnings has to say. But Twitter could be good. Twitter could be a good second look here. Again, another stock that really didn't break down at all with the whole recent market FUD. Look at that, guys. It's been holding very, very strong. So Twitter could be due a second look. Yandex, I really don't like how that looked right there. That big drop. I'm not a huge fan of that, but that could be a double bottom. Look at a triple bottom. One bottom, two bottom, three bottoms. That's a weird. All right, avoid that one. ADXS, Ruger, no thank you. Nike. All right, so Nike coming up and coming back down, bouncing towards a previous high. Could be pretty textbook right there. Coming back down to a support point. Mel, that could be a good point. I don't know of any. I know there's market cycles based around a general presidential election. There's a 4-year market cycle. I haven't heard much about midterms, but maybe this year could be different. I don't know why the stock market would care, to be honest with you. I don't think any major legislation on the table right now. Trump's been talking about some weird 10% tax cut for the middle class, which is probably his best idea in a long time. But I think that could be the only thing at stake, maybe. The tax cuts have gone through. You've already got companies that announced buybacks, the repatriation of funds. So all the big stuff's been done. I don't know why that would necessarily be a headwind. Hold on. Yeah, that's what he's talking out of his butt right there. I think he just pulled that out for the midterm elections. He may do it, but there's never been a plan for that. He's trying to get he's just playing politics with that, in my opinion. Okay, so Nike right here coming back to I don't well, so here's the thing with Trump. Okay, and I'm not a Trump supporter. I see what he's doing. I understand it. I actually had a really good, like, a 2 hour long conversation with a guy that used to run a hedge fund and does like Trump's policies. So we had a great conversation. Um, he's doing some things good for the economy. I don't necessarily agree with his stuff because of his deficit spending. He's doing more deficit spending in a bull economy, which makes no sense to me. He's trying to add accelerant to an already burning fire. At the same time, while trying to sell the fire extinguishers to put out that fire. Anyway, um, yeah, when he says something like that, I generally would tend to believe that he's going to try to do it, to try to give a 10% middle class tax cut. That's my general thought on that. Um, so while I don't think necessarily I'm going to show a little bit of my political sentiment here, so I don't mind political arguments. If you guys want to chat about it, I'm not going to talk about it much here, but you can go to the Slack chat room. I've got love and politics, ladies and gentlemen, for these conversations. But I think when he makes statements like that, it is basically to rile up the base and say, Trump's really for us. That's what he wants the middle class to think. Um, in reality, I don't think he understands fully economic realities. So, like the big corporate tax cut, while it did give a big boost to the stock market, I get that. You can already see in the receivables of the IRS that our deficit is just ballooning. We're not so trickle down economics has proven to not work, and it's not going to work under Trump either. But a middle class tax cut could be good for the economy because a majority of people in the middle class do spend, spend, spend. So that would be a boost, I think, generally to the economy. And he probably should have spent those tax cuts on the middle class initially, then on corporations. Personally, we can talk about this later in Love and Politics if you want to. I actually do enjoy the conversations as long as they're not emotional. I do enjoy the conversations. All right, so I think Nike pulling back here could be an interesting proposition for a value buyer. You can see there's that 200-day moving average, which we haven't touched in Nike ever since we had this big base that we just broke out of earlier this year. And you can see on these run-ups, buying on that 40-week moving average has proven to be generally a pretty good sign. So right now we're sitting at that 40-week moving average, and it's 7:15, so I got to run. Let's go through a couple more, see if there's anything worth looking at. Boot looks pretty good here. Not quite to the 40-week moving average, but at that 50-day. Looks like it's pulling back to the 50-day. So there's something about the 50-day. If it fails the 50-day, so this is not failing the 50-day yet. It failed it here. Earnings could pop it higher. Looks like they're tomorrow after market. So look for that on Boot. That's a pretty good day yesterday for Boot. And so far, what do we got? The NASDAQ looks like we're back down to about 0.5% lower. Boot looking somewhat promising. IDXS, IDXX, whoops, looking not too bad. And you got in Garmin. Don't know if did I look at Garmin? Oh, you got in Garmin today? Yeah, Garmin overtaking yesterday's highs, looking pretty good. Volume a little light here on Garmin. AMD and Intel. Let's look at those and I'll get out of here. All right, so AMD, I don't see any major support level here for AMD. They do have earnings coming up today, as a matter of fact, after market. So I'll let you know tomorrow what I think about AMD. Ha ha ha. Taking no position. And then, so here we got a little bit of a minor support level for Intel right there. So this could be a good pullback buy for Intel. I don't know much about the economics that are happening. So it looks like AMD is going to have earnings and Intel doesn't have earnings for a while. So, oh, okay, Mel's thinking about a bigger term, like 4 hours. That's definitely long term for you, Mel. Definitely long term. But without anything else, any other indication, coming back to a prior breakout point can typically be a healthy thing. So, but there's no major bottoming action here. We'll just kind of have to see what AMD does after today. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna bounce out of here. Thanks for joining me again. Sorry about yesterday. I just needed some sleep and I just slept. So one benefit to doing this is that I can sleep sometimes. All right, guys, I'm gonna bounce. Have a good one. See you later in the Power Hour, and I'll see you tomorrow in Real Stocks. Bye bye.